Let's start Civics, Chapter 10, Law and Social Justice. Okay, so markets tend to be exploitative of people. Therefore, the government makes certain laws to protect people from such exploitation. These laws try to check unfair practices in the market. Sometimes what happens, private companies, contractors, etc., in order to make maximum profits for them, might deny workers their rights and not pay them wages. So in that case, in this regard, there is a law on minimum wages which ensures that workers are paid fairly. The government is also keen to protect the interests of producers and consumers in the market. There are also laws for them. These laws ensure that the relations between the worker, consumer and producer are governed in a manner that is not exploitative. Well, laws are there to protect various interests, but what is important in this regard in implementation of is the implementation of these laws. Unless these laws are enforced, it will be difficult to protect the weak from the strong. To ensure that every worker gets fair wages, the government has to regularly inspect work sites and punish those who violate the law. Through making, enforcing and upholding these laws, the government can control the activities of individuals or private companies in order to ensure social justice. In October 2006, the government amended the Child Labor Prevention Act, banning children under 14 years of age from working as domestic servants or as workers in dhabas, restaurants, etc. It made employing these children punishable offense. Here one question is given: why do we need a law on minimum wages? Let me tell you why we need a law on minimum wages. We need a law on minimum wages so that workers may get fair wages by their employers. Most often they are denied fair wages. The employers usually take advantage of their poverty and pay them low wages. Turn to the next page. Here we have a Bhopal gas tragedy. So what is this tragedy? Let me tell you. Bhopal gas tragedy is the world's worst industrial tragedy that took place in the year 1984. Union Carbide, UC, an American company, had a factory in Bhopal in which it produced pesticides. At midnight on 2 December 1984, methyl isocyanide (MIC), a highly poisonous gas, started leaking from this UC plant, which took numerous lives. Among those who survived, many developed severe respiratory disorders, eye problems, etc. Children developed peculiar abnormalities. The disaster was not an accident. Union cabinet had deliberately ignored the essential safety measures in order to cut costs. Although UC stopped its operations, it left behind tons of toxic chemicals which have seeped into the ground to contaminate water. Okay, 24 years later, people are still fighting for justice, for safe drinking water, for health care facilities and jobs for the people poisoned by UC. Now, the question arises why Union Carbide set up its plant in India. For this, we have in next page. foreign companies usually come to India for cheap labor. Here, they can save costs and earn higher profits. Lower working conditions, including lower safety measures, are used as ways of cutting costs. In the UC plant, every safety device was malfunctioning. In India, there is so much unemployment that there are many workers who are willing to work even in unsafe conditions in return for a wage. The employers take advantage of this. In the next heading, enforcement of safety laws. The government must ensure that safety laws are implemented. It is also the duty of the government to ensure that the right to life guaranteed by the Constitution is not violated. The Bhopal disaster shows lacking on the government's part. There were weak safety laws and these too were not enforced. Government officials refused to recognize the plant as hazardous and allowed it to come up in a crowded locality. In this way, the safety of the people was disregarded both by the government and by private companies. In the year the Bhopal gas tragedy took place, there were few laws protecting the environment in India. The environment was treated as a pre-entity and any industry could pollute the air and water without any restrictions. The Bhopal disaster brought the issue of environment to the forefront. In 1984, there were very few laws protecting the environment in India, and there was hardly any enforcement of these laws. The Indian government introduced new laws on the environment. Henceforth, the polluter was to be held accountable for the damage done to environment. So, come to the conclusion part. So, in conclusion, we can say a major role of government is to control the activities of private companies by making, enforcing and upholding laws so as to prevent unfair practices and ensure social justice to all. Laws were important not only for the workers but also for those who might be injured due to industrial accidents. So one of the prime responsibilities of the government is to make appropriate laws and to enforce them.